Trade rumors are beginning to escalate. The Magic have been linked to the man, the myth, the legend, somebody who I've talked about multiple times. This is perfect. This is exactly what the doctor has ordered. I hope this team can end up pulling off a trade for Anfernee Simons at some point in the offseason. Today we're going to get into who exactly is Simons, what's the price potentially for him, why the Magic would do this deal, why the Blazers would do this deal, and then of course also addressing potentially why neither team or neither side would end up doing this deal. We're going to get into all of that in this video, guys. Welcome into Magic Digest. I'm your host, Patrick Previty. As always, this is your one-stop shop for Orlando Magic basketball content. Now, before we get into who exactly is Simons and why he would benefit the Orlando Magic, we got to get into the reports that we have been seeing over the last handful of days. Plus, honestly, we can just go back the entire year because this has been a player that the Orlando Magic have been linked to for a long time for multiple reasons. But this comes from Orlando Magic Daily, who just mentions that the Magic struggled to find consistency on the offensive end this past season and closed the year with a pretty average unit on that end of the floor. Finding a way to add another threat on that end of the court could potentially play a huge role in this team bouncing back next season. Obviously, we know injuries were to blame for a lot of the offensive struggles last season, but clearly there are plenty of NBA insiders and writers out there that think that this is a perfect marriage. I also saw something that said Mark Stein and Jake Fisher, a couple other NBA insiders, believe that Simons could be a projected target for the Orlando Magic. It would make sense, especially considering the cap space that this team, or lack of cap space that this team has in the offseason, to just go get a free agent. They would have to give something up. They'd have to make the contract situation work. And we're going to get into a potential trade, of course, in this video. Okay, so who is Anfernee Simons? Well, I think when you look at Simons, 25-year-old, 19 points per game, 4.8 assists. He's not exactly a pass-first kind of guy, but also the Portland Trail Blazers are just a bit of a mess. They weren't as bad this season as maybe you potentially have seen in years past, but still not exactly a playoff team, and they're in the Western Conference, so they kind of get just pushed down a little bit, even if they are competitive. 36% from the three-point range. We love that. He checks that box. 37.7% on catch and shoot threes last season as well. Shoots pretty well from the corner as well. 33%. 6'3". Now, obviously, the Orlando Magic kind of opt for the bigger, more defensive-oriented guards, but whenever we look at team building, this team is probably going to have to get a guy who is potentially score first or just more offensive-minded, and Anfernee Simons fits that bill. Now, what's the price? That is probably the biggest question through all of this, and there have been other trades thrown out there, potential trades that I think are pretty interesting. I'm not going to say are the end-all, be-all, but I saw this from Bleacher Report. Anfernee Simons, the Orlando Magic, get him, and for that, they give the Portland Trail Blazers Anthony Black, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, the 2025 first-round pick, that one via the Denver Nuggets. Okay, a little bit to unpack here because potentially this price, depending on who you ask, might not be enough or might be too much. What we all love is how bad KCP was and shipping him out this year. He's getting paid about $20 million this season. That's what helps this contract situation for this trade. Anfernee Simons is due about $27 million this upcoming year. So you're going to have to include a guy like KCP or like Jonathan Isaac even. One of those guys who's getting paid in this deal to make it happen. And then Anthony Black and the first-round pick from the Nuggets. Now, I'm not exactly married to the first-round pick from the Nuggets just because it is at the very end of the first round, and it's unlikely that we could potentially get an impact player at that point, and we also have our own first-round draft pick as well, and I think this team would just be better off using that one and then trying to get a win-now piece with the other pick, so maybe packaging it in a trade like this. Now, Anthony Black compared to Anfernee Simons, this is where I potentially hold off. I know I mentioned a lot about Jalen Suggs and everything like that. You guys have said plenty to me as I'm flipping through the graphics here. This is what Anthony Black did last season, just for reference. I think that he showed a lot of promise, especially towards the second half of the year, and he was really good in that series against the Boston Celtics. Now, really good is a relative description for his play. I don't think that he is some sort of budding all-star right now, but he was really good, and I think this is a guy who can average 13 points next season, something around there. Could potentially see his rebounds and his assists go up, and I think most importantly, we see his minutes go up. I think he's a defensive anchor for this team, and that is something that I really buy into, and I just felt like his shooting was it was improved. There was a clear improvement from his rookie year, and we saw this in the summer league. This is a player that can improve. Will we or would we be willing to give up Anfernee Black for a guy like Simons? You're going to have to give up something to get something, and Anfernee Black would probably be a player that the Blazers would potentially want to take from the Magic, because I would say him and De Silva are the most promising younger, ones and two or first and second year players for this team. I don't think that they want Jet Howard. I don't think that they're going to want any of the other younger pieces. And then obviously Paolo Banchero, Franz Wagner, Jalen Suggs, as you guys have mentioned, off the table. And it would make sense because Anfernee Simons is not that type of catch to give up, obviously, any of those guys, but including Jalen Suggs. Now, why would the Magic end up doing this deal? Well, I think the Magic would end up trying to look at this from a perspective of trying to win now and an extremely aggressive move. And they say, we're getting an expiring contract in Anfernee Simons. He's an Orlando native. We're going to re-sign him. We are going to be able to pay him. Right now, he's getting paid $25 million-ish a year. He signed a 4-year, $100 million max, or not a max, but a 4-year, $100 million deal. And we're going to be able to pay him. We're going to be able to keep him in Orlando. And he's 25, and this is also a win-now move, but we know for the future that he could be one of the pillars. And now we got 4 bona fide starters for this team and for a team that could definitely make a potential championship run in the coming years. Now, why would the Blazers do this? They probably are looking at their long-term plans, and they don't know if Simons fits. They have a ton of different expiring contracts, including DeAndre Ayton, obviously Anfernee Simons. Those guys are potential pillars for this team, but they have no clear direction if those guys are on expiring deals or they're hitting free agency this season, and they need to just figure out what exactly the direction is. Are they going to invest in a guy like Shaedon Sharpe? What exactly does this team look like in 2 to 3 years? Do you see yourself paying these guys who could potentially get a lot more on the open market? Or do you want to kind of hit a reset button, get some rookie contracts, get another pick in this draft? Maybe that's what you end up doing to try to build this team. I think it's very interesting from their perspective because obviously they could potentially just trade Anfernee Simons at the deadline to maybe a more contending team who potentially would be more desperate than in the offseason. Or if they don't like the Nuggets pick and that's not enough, then they're not caring enough about the draft. So that asset isn't exactly enticing them to make the deal right now. So they're going to look ahead, try to take a swing at a team that maybe kind of falls down the lottery or what have you. You know what I'm trying to say, where a pick could potentially They take the risk. They run the risk of a pick potentially being more valuable than it is at that certain time. But now you know that the Denver pick is slotted at 25, and you don't want to make that deal. I think that there's definitely an angle here for both teams to get a deal done. Now, other players that I could potentially see included in this deal that maybe would be interesting for the Portland Trail Blazers would be a guy like Tristan Da Silva. I personally really would love to hold on to Da Silva and Anfernee Black. I don't want to trade either of those guys, but to make a deal like this, you're going to have to give up something, and obviously the Blazers are in the market for the younger players and not a guy like Cole Anthony, Wendell Carter Jr., Jonathan Isaac, Bataze, none of those guys. And we know that this team would probably want to trade some of those pieces before they end up moving a guy like Anfernee Black or Tristan Da Silva. So maybe this specific trade isn't exactly going to be what is seen in this offseason, but definitely Anfernee Simons is going to be a target for the Orlando Magic in the offseason. So let me know what you guys think down in the comments section below. As always, if you want to see more basketball content from myself, I have another YouTube channel. It's linked down below, doing game recaps for the playoffs. So if you want more nail on the head analysis on what is going on in basketball right now, make sure to check that out. The support is always appreciated. But as always, I will see you guys next time with more Orlando Magic basketball content.